On the night of February 2nd, 1959, deep in the frozen Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, in a place known to the local Mansi people as Death Mountain, something truly terrifying happened. It drove 9 skilled and experienced mountaineers to tear open their tents and flee barefoot in temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius, without shoes or warm clothing, to face a grim fate. Weeks later, rescue teams found their bodies scattered in the snow. Some died from frostbite, but others were found with inexplicable injuries: shattered skulls, crushed chests as if in a high-speed car crash, and horrifically mutilated bodies. Some of their clothing even contained extremely high levels of radiation. The Soviet Union quickly closed the case, attributing the cause to an irresistible force of nature. Welcome to the full and detailed story of one of the most terrifying and mysterious events of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass Incident. What really happened on that fateful night? Was it an attack by intelligence agents? Or the legendary Yeti creature? Or secret weapon experiments? Or did nature have a different plan? Follow along for the details to find out the truth. The expedition began in January 1959. The group consisted of 10 people, mostly students and graduates of the Ural Mountain Polytechnic Institute. They were young men in the prime of their lives, but they were no amateurs. They were first-rate adventurers with extensive experience in long-distance skiing and enduring harsh weather conditions. The group's leader was a bright and charismatic 23-year-old named Igor Dyatlov, after whom the trail was later named. The group included 7 men and 2 women. The goal of the expedition was to reach Mount Otorten, a Category 3 trail, the most difficult and dangerous in the Soviet Union at that time. The group traveled by train and then by truck until they reached the northernmost inhabited point. There, one of the group members, a young man named Yuri Yudin, experienced severe back and joint pain due to an exacerbation of a chronic illness. He was unable to continue in the freezing temperatures. Yuri had to say goodbye to his 9 companions and return home. Little did he know then that this accursed disease was in fact a gift from heaven, and that the farewell kiss he planted on his friends' faces was the last time he would see them alive. Yuri became the sole survivor of this ill-fated journey without ever setting foot on the mountain. The remaining 9 continued on their way. Through cameras later recovered and their diaries, we can reconstruct their final days. Spirits were high, the young men laughed and enthusiastically recorded their journey. On February 1st, the group began their ascent of the pass leading to Mount Otorten. However, due to severe blizzards and poor visibility, they strayed off course. They found themselves on the slope of a mountain called Kulat Siakel, which the Mansi people translate as Mountain of Death. Instead of descending a few hundred meters to seek shelter from the gusts in the forest, Dyatlov made a peculiar decision. He decided to pitch their tent right there, on the mountainside, completely exposed to the wind and bitter cold. Perhaps Dyatlov didn't want to lose the altitude they had gained, or perhaps he wanted to train the group to camp in extremely harsh conditions. The young men ate their dinner, dared to write a humorous newspaper to boost morale, then changed their clothes and prepared for bed. It was a little after 10 p.m. Everything was quiet until hell began. Dyatlov was supposed to send a telegram to the sports club as soon as they returned on February 12th. Days passed and no telegram arrived. At first, no one worried. The weather was bad and delays were common. But by February 20th, the young men's families were shouting and demanding action. A huge rescue team was formed, comprised of volunteers, the Army, and intelligence services, and planes and helicopters were deployed. On February 26th, the rescue teams finally located the tent. This was the first shock that baffled the investigators. The tent was abandoned and partially covered with snow. But the strangest thing was that it had been cut and ripped open from the inside with sharp tools, not from the outside. This meant that whoever was inside had been in a state of extreme panic and hadn't had time to unzip the tent. They had simply ripped it open to escape immediately. Inside the tent, all their belongings were there. Their shoes, heavy coats, money, cameras, and food. Outside the tent, footprints in the snow showed that 9 people had split up and walked slowly toward the forest below. Some completely barefoot, some wearing only a single sock in the deadly heat. What could possibly frighten a person enough to run barefoot on a polar night? Rescue teams followed the tracks to begin the search for the bodies. About 1.5 kilometers from the tent, specifically under a huge cedar tree at the edge of the forest, they found the first two bodies. They were wearing only their underwear, their hands burned as if they had desperately tried to start a small fire, and there were marks of climbing on the cedar tree, indicating they had been trying to see something or escape something on the ground. Between the tree and the tent, they found 3 more bodies, including Igor Dyatlov. Their positions suggested they had died trying to crawl back to the tent. The official cause of death for these 5 was hypothermia, or freezing. But the real horror came 2 months later, in May, when the snow melted and they found the remaining 4 bodies in a small ravine deeper in the forest. These 4 hadn't died from the cold. They had suffered horrific trauma. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had a severe skull fracture. Semyon Zolotarev and Lyudmila Dubinina suffered crushing fractures to their rib cages. Doctors said these fractures required immense force, beyond human capability, similar to the impact of a speeding car. Even more bizarrely, there were no external wounds or bruises on the skin consistent with such internal fractures. But it didn't end there. Lyudmila and Zolotarev's bodies were found without eyes, and Lyudmila had lost her tongue and part of her facial bones. Even more strangely, laboratory tests revealed that some of the victims' clothing was abnormally radioactive. Theories abounded for years in an attempt to find a logical explanation for what happened. Let's discuss the most popular ones. Theory 1. The Mansi or mountain swordsman attack. It was said that the local people attacked the skiers for violating their sacred land. However, the Mansi were very peaceful, and there were no other people's footprints in the snow besides those of the skiers themselves. Furthermore, the internal fractures wouldn't have resulted from human blows without leaving bruises. Theory 2, the Yeti. Some believe that the Iceman had attacked them. This would explain the overwhelming force of the fractures, and the removal of the tongue and eyes might have been done by predators after death. However, there is no concrete physical evidence to support this. Theory 3, Soviet military experiments. This theory gained immense popularity. The Ural Mountains were known for their numerous secret military sites. That night, other ski groups kilometers away reported seeing flying orange balls in the sky. Those who subscribed to this theory believe that a Soviet missile fell or exploded on the mountain, releasing toxic gases or shock waves that caused the young people to panic and flee. This explains the radiation on the clothes and the government's cover-up of the matter. In 2020, Russian authorities officially reopened the investigation, and with the help of scientists and physicists, they arrived at the most plausible and realistic explanation today: the collapse of a small, hidden avalanche slab. According to this theory, the young men had cut a section of the slope to secure their tent. With strong winds, a heavy, solidified mass of avalanche collapsed and fell directly onto the tent as they slept. This sudden and immense weight broke the ribs and skulls of some of them while they were still under the canvas. In panic and darkness, and fearing a larger collapse, they tore down the tent and carried the injured into the forest for shelter. There, one by one, they succumbed to the deadly cold and wind. The missing body parts, such as tongues and eyes, were the result of natural decomposition and scavenging by animals and birds during the 3 months before their bodies were discovered. Although the scientific explanation seems logical, it hasn't completely dispelled the mystery in the hearts of millions. The Dyatlov Pass will forever remain a symbol of terror, a constant reminder that nature possesses secrets and a power that sometimes surpasses human comprehension. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to join us on our upcoming journeys into the depths of human mysteries. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the avalanche theory, or do you think there's a military secret still hidden beneath the snows of Death Mountain? Until next time.